Hello, I'm James, and I'm an old guy in Europe. Hello, and welcome to another episode of An Old Guy in Europe. Back in November of 2022, I talked with Carl Munson on his Good Morning Portugal Show regarding how expectations about immigrating can lead to suffering, how anticipation is softer than expectation, and how curiosity and possibility may be healthier approaches. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Swing. Where is he? There he is.
There he is. I just wanted to say hello and goodbye. I've got to deal with another recovering child. It's nice to see you, James.
You too, Louisa.
All right. See you later, guys.
All
Bye,
right.
Gumpers.
Ciao, ciao.
One of these for you as well, then. There she goes. Oh, that feels good. We also like the clap first thing in the morning. James, how are you? Tudo bem? Bom fim de semana. Muito bem?
Which one do I choose? Tudo bem.
So what you been thinking? What are your thoughts from the Redwoods, as we used to say back in the day? Do you remember those in the old days?
What? Yeah, back in the day, a few weeks ago. Yeah, I was thinking in anticipating today's show and the slight, more subtle shift to applying some of these concepts more specifically to immigrating. And I was looking at expectation. I know we've talked about attachment in the past, and I got to looking at expectation because when I started looking at the question that has been raised more recently of why do people decide to leave, I realized that expectation is a huge factor in that decision-making process. That a lot depends on what you're expecting, and expectation is just another form of attachment. It's a form, rather than wanting things to be other than they are right now, it's wanting things to be a certain way in the future, which we have no real control over. Because, as I say over and over, we have no control over anything but ourselves, our thoughts, our words, and our actions. So anything that's anticipating or expecting things to be a certain way, the only thing we have control over is what we expect of ourselves and our own thoughts and words and actions. So much of this process based in the future is dependent on other people. It's dependent on the process. It's dependent on the bureaucracy. It's dependent on the airlines. It's dependent on the weather. So many things that are out of our control. And if we're not aware of that, there's this intense desire to control those things that won't go away. And in that attachment is suffering. There's a lot of moaning and groaning and so if we can be aware of that, this is an expectation that I have no control over. I can influence some of it by my own actions, but some of it I just have to let go of, and then remember to breathe and remember that we don't have control over it. We can then begin to let go of some of the suffering that comes with that expectation. And as that's related to people leaving, I think they come with an expectation that this is going to be the answer to all my problems, or this is going to be, the perfect place to be in the world, or, whatever our expectation may be of that. And then you come and you may have that for the first few weeks, infatuation, vacation. But then life is life. And I'm not saying that like life is doldrums, but life has certain requirements that sometimes can be overlooked for a short period of time on a vacation. And that's where if the expectation is I'm going to go there and it's going to feel like a vacation forever, then we're going to be disappointed in that. And in that disappointment, that unfulfilled expectation, comes disappointment, frustration, and the other things that come with the suffering of that expectation. So I'm really liking the topic, not the topic, but the guests that we've got with immigration as, personal work, personal growth work. Because it is. I mean, it's what we've been talking about every week, is the things we get to look at in ourselves and how we're coping with a move, a substantial move to a new place. So in the looking at an expectation, I because I do this, I broke it down. I said, well, how's that different than anticipation? Because anticipation is also about the future. It's also about something like an expectation, but it doesn't, it's not as strong. It's not that it is necessarily going to be a way. It's kind of hoping it will be a certain way. That's an anticipation as I'm defining it. And therefore there's less suffering in anticipation, because it's like, oh, I'm hoping it will be this, I'm hoping it will be that. And if it's not, that's, well, okay, it didn't turn out the way I hoped it would, as opposed, it's not the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. So it's a little softer. And ultimately, at the softest end and the least suffering end of it is, in my view, it's possibility. It's what's possible. I think you called it, being open to the experiment. It's like, let's see. And then there's no expectation. There may be some anticipation. It might be like this, it might be like that, but I don't know. Let's see. So in that possibility and hope comes to me, an authentic willingness to be vulnerable and to practice accepting what shows up. So there may be a lot of dancing, a lot of changing in the movements, but there's no suffering in it. Each step is, I don't know, it becomes a fun process rather than one of disappointment, frustration, and suffering.
Which so you would have to prepare yourself for, right? You'd have to attune yourself to that, though, I suspect, from what I'm gathering from what you're saying.
Yeah, it's all about practice. I mean, you don't just wake up one morning, all of a sudden you can accept everything that happens with great grace and and expertise. No, it's practice.
Yes.
I had a client ask me yesterday, as a matter of fact. He said, so is that mindfulness? Because I was talking about breath and gratitude, and I said, well, those are pieces of mindfulness, and it was the first time I was ever called to kind of define what is mindfulness, and it boiled down to bringing my attention to myself. So bringing my awareness to me, to what I'm thinking, to what my desires are, to what I'm attached to, and that mindful approach, when we practice it again and again, which is turning inward. Something's not right. What's going on with me? Ooh, they're really upsetting me. Okay, so what is it about me that's being, driving the energy behind that? When we can do that, then we can begin to let go and understand that I'm at cause for all of my experience. Whether I'm frustrated or joyful or whatever I am, that's up to me. But if I don't know that, I haven't practiced mindfulness, bringing it to me, then it looks like circumstances are ruining my life or making my life wonderful. It's like the things outside of me are doing that. So that takes a ton of practice.
It does. It's a process, isn't it? For sure, based on realization. And I must say, it is easy. Well, actually, I don't know if it is easy, but it's certainly easier to get it as a concept than to be putting it into practice. And this is, I think this is mantra stuff for us, isn't it? Wherever you go, there you are. I think that's firmly held as an article of faith for the Gumpers now, isn't it? This is our everyday speak, isn't it? Yogi Berra is supposed to have said that. It's certainly a Buddhistic and spiritual concept, isn't it? Wherever you go, there you are. And then I realized, when I was judging and when I was going into my, when you're away, you're a little bit vulnerable as well, aren't you? And things sometimes aren't working out well. And I had to remind myself that there's a consistent element in these challenges I'm facing right now, and that's me and my attitude about this. And it's a refinement. I was going to say you go deeper and deeper. Whichever way you look at it, it's like refining oil higher and higher, or going deeper and deeper, or the layers of an onion. It is a process. It's not just a sudden realization, is it? Sorry, I interrupted you there.
Well, it's an ongoing practice for sure. I was just going to say, as Gene said to Thunderduck, where else are you going to be, right? Yeah. That one of the things I like about some of these mantras or some of these ideas that seem to come a lot from Eastern thinking is they're very logical. You know, it is what it is, can sound trite, but it's a fact. Like, what else can it be? It is that. So now, do I accept that it is that and not suffer? Or do I rail against it and suffer in the process of trying to make it not be what it is? So you are where you are is very literal. You know, what time is it? Well, it's now, right? Now and now and now and now and now. There really is no past. There is no future. Those are concepts, ideas, and memories. But the only thing that's real is now.
Oh my goodness, which brings us full circle to get Coach Turner's God Squad tip of the day. Carpe diem.
Absolutely.
And again, you're right, these things have become cliches, they sound trite, but they are cliches for a reason, aren't they? Because human beings cling to them with some little bit of light or hope. And we're reminded, aren't we, of all the things we're talking about this morning.
Yes, well, and the concept of easy and simple, people put those together and often say they're the same thing. But just something is simple. You know, you are where you are. That's very simple. Love is very simple.
Yes.
But in the simplicity doesn't mean that it's easy at all. Remembering to be loving and to practice a loving attitude can be very difficult. To remember and to understand that the past is a memory and the future is a concept, that can be very difficult. That's what takes the practice. But the concept is simple. And I found, at least for my experience, almost all what I call the universal truths are very simple.
Yes.
But some of them are the most difficult things you'll ever attempt to practice in your life. So simple and easy are not the same any more than complex and difficult are.
Well said, sir. Excellent. And that's why he's here. And that's why he's paid the big bucks.
For me, the migration isn't necessarily getting over the things that you like from where you've been. It's just not expecting to have that all the time. You know, expecting that it might be difficult to find it. And the bigger part, I really get Frank's meaning, is learning to integrate into the culture that you come into, which means experiencing the food, experiencing the language, involving yourself with the culture, the community, the people of the country where you are, and not trying to be, you know, whatever your former nationality was in this new place.
Yes.
You know, I think we're all going to, you know, want, I've heard many times, or not many times, I've seen several times, people from the United States craving Mexican food, or at least Mexican food as we're familiar with it in the United States, because it's not available and it's delicious and we like it and we want it. So that's okay. It's okay to like that and want that and seek it out, but to expect it to be there and to always have that and only that, then you're not integrating, you're not fully migrating, which is part of that mental state, I think, that Frank was referring to.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I don't think a travel brochure or a single article on a place is sufficient for making a decision to make a life change.
Yes.
You know, it's the infatuation vacation. It's like, oh, if that's what I'm looking for, if I'm looking for 2 weeks of the best I can find, then read the article and go look for that. But to then decide you're going to move somewhere for the rest of your life and not run into some disappointments from the travel brochure, then you're going to suffer a lot.
So before we have our guest join us, James, was there anything you wanted to say, more to say about attachments and adjusting oneself? It's all very well observing the theory, but what happens when somebody realizes they're full of expectations that have been dashed? What do they do then?
Well, even before that is noticing that you are. So this is why the 3-point mantra that I use again and again: notice, choose, act. It starts with the noticing. First, you have to notice that the energy is stirring. I always talk about the energy because it's almost always it's a feeling inside of me somewhere that when I look at it, I say, what's that about? Then I begin to understand it better. So noticing that it's even happening can be work. For me, it's always because I'm having some sort of a sensation that feels uncomfortable or disagreeable or maybe, far greater than the circumstances seem to demand. Something is going on, and to notice that is the first thing. After that, then you can take actions. You can make a choice to then act. Take a deep breath, look at what you're grateful for, examine what the source of the upset is and try to resolve it. Those are the things that happen once you become aware that something's going on. But so many of us don't. So many of us blame the external circumstances for what we're experiencing. And there's reason for that, because that we react to that out there. So it feels like that is doing it to us. So it's understandable, but it's not until we realize that my reaction is up to me. And that's evidenced everywhere. You see people who experience horrible, extreme situations who manage it quite well, ultimately, because they choose not to let that define them or become who they are. So you find people who are incredibly forgiving and graceful around things that you would expect them to just be railing against the world about. And at the same time, you see people who are railing against the world because, somebody stepped in front of them and they had to stop walking, So it's all based on how we react to what's going on. But it feels like what's out there is doing it to us.